Welcome to the Relationship Revolutions podcast with Alan Watts, the Love Engineer. The world needs more healthy, loving and lasting relationships, yet school does not teach how to attract, build and keep them.
G'day and welcome to another episode of Relationship Revolutions with myself, Alan the Love Engineer. And today's episode is going to be based around another question which I hear quite a few times, which is there really such a thing as unconditional love? Now, as much as I could spend a whole podcast on my own just talking about that question, the potential answers of that. A while back, I hosted what I call a Love Shack chat with 3 of my friends, and we all talked about this very same question. So rather than have just my perspective, I'm going to share that episode on this podcast. Also on that call is my friends Mitra VJ, Nisanka, and Goddess Andrea, all of which will be appearing at some point on this podcast, just one-on-one with me and sharing more of their own insights on various different things as well. So I will now pass over to that recording.
Good evening and welcome to what we could even call the Love Shack, where 4 of us friends in the healing space, for want of a better description, myself, the Love Engineer, Mitra VJ, the meditation expert, teacher, guru, whatever hat he chooses to wear today. We have Goddess Andrea from Sexpectations and Nisanka from Coaching with Nisanka.
Yep.
So today's talk is about unconditional love and does it really exist? And this, for me, I think is a great topic to start with because it is a question with no answer. I'd like to invite Andrea to share some thoughts initially, or some feelings, and we'll see what we do.
Okay, well, I'm Andrea, Goddess Andrea, known in my coaching space, and I believe love is a choice. So you can choose to love someone or someone can choose to love you, but one of my views is it's a choice. It's not a feeling, it's not a nothing. So if I choose to love you, there's actually nothing you can do about that. It's my choice. And as for unconditional love, I do believe it exists in like children or family, if it's like honest love and not toxic love. You know, we don't need to force people to love us. Even when you have a child, you choose to love them from the time they're born. And then you grow and expand that love as they grow. And so do you, you know, you learn how to have that. But I believe love is a choice.
Excellent. And how about you, Nisanka?
Can you hear me finally?
We can hear you, yes.
Yeah,
Loud and clear.
right now, this moment, I don't love technology. I can tell you right now. So what do I think about love? I think unconditional love, I think that's what we were talking about. I agree with Andrea. Love is a choice. Absolutely. I do believe that unconditional love only exists in one dynamic, that is a parent to a child. However, I think the question is, do enough of us know how to communicate that with our children? That's one question. And also, when we fall in love or when we love someone, you know, do we know enough to recognize those feelings and communicate? That's where I think. So there's a lot of questions there.
It is. So unconditional love of a child. That's one I always find interesting. And some people say it's the other way around as well. But have you seen the child's reaction when they don't get what they want? Have you seen some of the parents' reactions when their child doesn't behave the way they would like them to? And I think the behavior thing that still plays out with adults as well. Because especially if we're coming from with a little bit of ego involved, which almost every single person on the planet does, including me, when a partner doesn't show up in a particular way, it's easy to it can be easy to judge the person for the behavior and not differentiate the two, which is a lot easier for children, because we can just say, oh, they're just a child, we don't know any better, so I'll dismiss the behavior because I still love the child. But who says we can't love an adult irrespective of their behaviors? Now, I'm not saying that loving them means staying in a toxic or abusive environment or relationship. I don't agree with that at all. Not being in a relationship with them. Sometimes it works to love them from a distance. Just because you love someone doesn't mean that you should be with them. It all depends on the dynamics of the situation and what's going on. And personally, I've had relationships where we both loved each other, but it wasn't enough. Because what she needed, I couldn't provide. So if I were to stay there and try and make her to show up in the way in which I wanted, that's a very conditional thing and very selfish. So there's actually a lot of love in letting go sometimes. How about you, Mitra?
God, you guys have some really, really great points in there. And I'm sure if we ask 10 people, all 10 will have something different to say. But what I'm really pleased is this is 21st century and people are still trying to discover love. Forget about unconditional love. That is phenomenal. And I'm really glad we have all come together to discuss this. And I would thank anybody who's listening to us as well, that this is a topic or an emotion that we all should start exploring beyond the realms of books and words. I had always seen it as, before going to unconditional love, some people should, or everybody should at least know or understand what love is. You'd be surprised. I had put a question up a few weeks ago, asking people, where do they learn about love? Is it from the books or parents or experience or movies? And even though 25 people, whoever responded, they all had a different view. And how amazing is that? Coming back to the stages of love, and let's move a little bit more forward. On a core, there are 3 stages. So the one is physical, one is psychological or mind, and the third is spiritual. Now, because I am more inclined or advocate of mindfulness and meditation, I'll take these 3 stages where human moves. And coming back to Alan, your word, in the dynamics of couples, you'll be amazed that when it comes to love, I, as a man or a partner, I want love. My partner wants love. Nobody's ready to give love. And you know what happens? If you don't give, you're not thinking of giving and just wanting. It's 2 people who are like beggars holding the ball, if you've seen, looking for love, because nobody's ready to give.
Yeah.
And if the physical moves to psychological to the spiritual, and unconditional love is a possibility. It's definitely a possibility, but some work is required. So that's what I would like to say. For meditation can help you.
It can
Meditation.
indeed, as can Tantra. And
Yes,
just
I
follow,
believe. Can I just pipe in
go for
here,
it. Yeah.
Mitra? We haven't really talked about like the first step, I think, to love is really loving yourself, dropping your judgments and expectations, and being able to fully embrace you, your shadows, all your stuff. The shit we've been through, the wherever we're going. When you love yourself, or what I've learned in my experience, when I learned to just love myself purely, unconditionally. Like, I never actually thought this was possible. And I'm here. And it's so much easier to love other people. I can spread it. I can share it. I have no expectation of somebody needing to love me. I have all the love, and I get to give all the love, and I get to help people feel loved. And to me, that is the unconditional part of love, when we can just drop all the expectations around it. Oh, I'm only going to love you if you do this. No, forget you then. I don't have time to try and meet your needs. I have my own needs to meet. And when my needs are met, you're going to get everything you need.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that if you imagine that beggar's cup, as Mitra mentioned, we both have our own cups. And if we're just looking to the other person to fill our cup, well, hang on a minute. And they're looking for me to fill their cup. My cup is empty. Her cup is empty. Who's going to fill the cups up? Whereas if we
Exactly.
both fill our own cups up and share and give from that place of fullness, it creates a whole different experience to if I'm only going to love you as long as you're loving me first.
Can I chip in as well? I was just
You certainly can.
Yeah. Awesome. But Mitra, I absolutely love what you said about having two empty bowls, and then nobody is able to give anything. So that's a wonderful analogy there. And Andrea, I cannot agree more to what you said about loving yourself. And I think we go into the society, plod along in our lives, just having these expectations from other people, and our inability to love ourselves comes a lot from traumatic experiences that we've had in the past, from fetus to growing up, or we have ancestral links there as well. At the same time, when we haven't processed enough of our emotions, and when we are unaware of what we're going through, when we're not in tune with how we're feeling, and then we feel really disconnected from ourselves, and that becomes a major issue when it comes to loving ourselves. I think anybody is working with trauma, anxiety, any kind of mental health issues, that one of the first things that goes out of the window is love for yourself. You just stop loving yourself. You stop feeling connected with yourself. And one of the ways that we can start loving ourselves back is to start processing those emotions, somewhere, and actually, like Mitra, you can find love in letting go. Was it Alan or Mitra? One of you said you can find that love in letting go. And I think I have to correct myself after listening to Andrea. Yes, unconditional love exists in two dynamics: parent to children, and to yourself. But this is when it becomes an issue. We all know about the attachments and how it has an impact on children and growing up, and them growing up knowing their self-worth and being able to love themselves. But as parents, when we carry our baggages around and we start passing it to our children, what we do is we destroy that connection, or we actually stop our children from being able to love themselves, because we are not showing how it's done to our children. We're not communicating because we are so stressed, we're so not in the moment. We all agree. Love is all about being able to be in the present, right? Be able to be in the present and tune in and just be there, just be there. As parents, when we carry that, our baggage, we can't be there for our children. So we end up passing these messages. I have to do something to earn your love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how
Yeah.
we get disconnected. And that's how, as children, we learn that condition. I've got to do something to please you to earn love. But if you're able to process your emotion, let go of your baggage as adults and as parents, and you're there just present and start communicating, we love you no matter what. Your behavior is different to who you are as a person, Alan, coming back to you. Then I think we start cultivating, or we start passing this clear message to our children that they are loved no matter what. And then, Andrea, what you said about, yes, then they will start loving themselves, and then they will have better boundaries. Then they will stop attracting more people into their lives, and then they will stop become the people's pleaser. That's how we start going into to having healthy relationships and attracting that love, and having the two bowls full of love so you can give it to each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a couple of things, Andrea. If you haven't learned to love yourself, no love will ever be possible. So that's the beginning, which is really, really, really great point. If you go into Buddhism or into old scriptures, you'll see very few times love word is mentioned. What is mentioned is compassion. Is compassion, where let's set the record right. I love you all, and anybody listening, anybody who comes to my world, unconditionally. I have nothing to lose. I'm just saying as an example. The moment I start thinking of that barrier, this is such a key. The whole circle is the desire to have more and the fear of not losing what I have. This is the circle we're moving in. I will love you. You take whatever you want to take from me. I have nothing to lose. And that's at that surrender point, love starts to blossom. And compassion is also, if you see the ultimate flowering, not only to the flowering of a human. And so if we take it from that space of compassion, grace, gratitude, what can somebody take from me? I am ready to love you. To the max, you will stop loving me. Thank you very much. No problem. I will continue loving you. So,
Yeah, and that's where I say it's a choice. Like, I'm going to choose to love you, and my behavior is going to show you that I love you, and you will feel it, right? Like, our behavior has a lot to do with it as well. Like, I can say, "Oh, Alan, I love you," and then I'm not going to talk to you for a year. And next year, when I talk to you, it'll be like, "Oh, by the way, I love you," but yet I've shown nothing all through that whole year. I've never not connected or not whatever. I mean, there is a love that could happen there if we have been friends forever. I have friends I talk to every 6 months, but we've been friends for 30 years. I have no expectations of them. I know I love them. But if it's someone that I just met, you don't want to be all fallen in love with everybody, because is that even real? People who run around, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. I just love to love. So, but if you're in my life, I will show you that I love you.
You'd be surprised to know that love is the most exploited word on this planet.
Oh,
Everybody goes running around saying, I love you. And you open the surface a little bit, everybody hates everybody. They're full of miserable. The countries hate other countries. Friends hate other friends. Love has become the most hated undercover word.
And a very, very high expectation. You get in a relationship and your goal is to love each other. Why is there that expectation?
Yeah, it's the most exploited world almost.
And what does that mean? What does that even mean anyway?
Right?
What does it mean
Yeah.
to love each other?
Yeah.
It means different things to every single person. Now, as we're using StreamYard, we have got some questions that have come through, but they're on a little bit of a delay. So first comment is that all our favorite people on the screen, thank you very much. I don't know who you are, but thank you anyway. And someone else says, Goddess Andrea, I'm just starting that journey of trying to love myself.
Mm.
And then we have another comment. Unfortunately, the names aren't coming through right now. It says, but you also need to create a space for that person. Yes, you do. And along with that, you need to create that space within yourself.
Mm.
If you're not creating that space within yourself, how are you going to create it for someone else?
Right. This is one thing I told my children growing up. Like, if you don't know your body or you don't know how to love yourself, how do you expect other people to touch you or love you when you don't even know what you need?
Yeah.
Figure out what you need, what you want, what your desires are, what makes your life desirable, pleasurable. And, your journey of loving yourself, you have to really own your shadow work.
Yeah.
All those dark parts of us, we need to come to a togetherness with those parts of ourselves. Just work it all out. It's like ironing out the wrinkles that don't want to come out.
And some of those shadows and things we can work on within a relationship with a partner, and some of them we just know in ourselves that actually I need to put my own oxygen mask on before I even try and do anything with anyone else.
Yes.
And that is a form of self-love that not everyone likes, not everyone agrees with, not everyone understands. But for me personally, I do believe that relationships can be part of that healing along the way. And other times I've come across things within myself that it's just like, I need to sort this on my own, in my own space, in my own cave. And I will come out of it on the other side much better, stronger, and a higher vibrational level of myself. Though if I'm in a relationship at that time, there can be expectations put on that which can complicate matters. So for me, I choose to be single at times for that reason, for my own healing, for my own journey, for my own self-love. Now, that may be selfish to some people. That's okay. It's my life I'm living, not theirs.
Yeah, and what other people think of us is none of our business, right?
I'm the one that, when I get on my deathbed at the end, has got to go through it all and say, well, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Sometimes I make the right decisions. Sometimes I make the wrong ones. There's a gift and a lesson in every single one for me. So any other comments? Everyone has spoken about the emotional side, except for the love engineer. I would like his take. I think I've just covered that one. And we have, I can love others, but somehow not myself. And I'd like to invite Nisanka to share her thoughts on that. More.
Hey, you picked up my vibe, I think. I was like, took a deep breath in. I think Andrea mentioned that before, and Mitra mentioned that before as well. Unless you understand what that self-love actually means for you, what we are doing for others is actually trying to please other people. And that could be as a result of unmet emotional needs as a child, because our formative years between 0 and 6, we start creating these beliefs based on our experiences in our lives. especially based on our experiences with our primary caregivers, like mothers, fathers, or anybody around us. And like I mentioned earlier about, we get into these beliefs that, I am unlovable unless I do something for someone else. And and it could be as a traumatic experience that we've experienced in the past. It could be as a result of religious cultural teaching. It could be a sudden learning. So, for example, I can say that, imagine a father who is so unavailable for a child, but all of a sudden, when he has a drink, he comes home and starts showing a bit of affection to a child. So this child creates that belief that actually drunkard, when men are drunk, they can love. So they start projecting that, manifesting that in their lives, and attract alcoholic people into their lives, in their relationship, because that's the correct connection that they have made in their life. So it could be like that. On the surface, we believe that this is who we are. But if you start peeling the layers of the onion, or you can say whatever you want to say, however works for you, you start peeling these layers one by one, you will find out all these beliefs and conditioning and learning from the past. And I think, and we have to give some credits to that person who said, I can love another person, but I don't know how to love myself. It might be worth that you questioning yourself what love means for you first. And a second question would be, what do you mean by loving other people? Do you mean serving? Do you just mean without any boundaries, you are just doing and giving for other people? Do you mean loyalty? Because sometimes endless loyalty without boundaries is not loyalty, it's slavery, right? So, and there is no love there. So ask those questions yourself, and you might start. It's Here's the thing: when you're in a situation like that, best thing is to get very curious about things, right? Curious about your own emotions, and curious about your own identity and what you call yourself. I am this person, I'm that person. Get very curious. Are you actually? Or is this a learning? Is this a belief? Is this a conditioning? Is an expectation? I'm so used to serving. Get curious. When you get curious, life gets very uncomfortable, because you start becoming aware of a lot of things, and you go, oh, right, this is happening to me. And, that makes you want to change your things, right? And it gets very uncomfortable. And that's when people start going back in that previous habits and saying, this is what I know, I'm going to stay there. It's very much an individual choice. For me personally, I started becoming curious, and I started learning a lot of things, and I made so many changes in my life. And I've made that promise to myself, Andrea, I'm going to clear the clutter and love myself unconditionally.
Yeah. And what about taking responsibility for the way we did behave when we were unhealed, right?
Yeah.
Like I did some shitty things to some people, and I know that. I even, some of them I've apologized to, some of them I'll probably never talk to again, but really owning who we are, where we came from, and why we went through these things, and being okay with it, just forgiving ourselves. That's what we knew at that time.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of other comments. If you've been cut off from love, it's difficult to know where to start. And for me, I think the starting point has got to be that person in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Love yourself
Absolutely.
first. Everything else will change and transform from there.
Yeah, you can't take it away, like when you love yourself, nobody can take that love away from me at this point where I'm at in my life. And man, it feels so good knowing that, just knowing that I've screwed up, I've made mistakes, I've grown, I've pushed through. I'm still growing. I still sometimes fall back and have relapses,
Yeah.
But hey, whatever, I recognize it, I realize it. I'm like, damn, I did it again. Still trying to shake out some things, right? Like this is just life and love. But I agree, love starts within. And I was told in my 20s, how can you love somebody when you don't even love yourself? And I was so defensive. I love myself. I hated myself. So it's like when I realize that now, I'm like, ooh, oopsie, you were right.
Mitra might have an interesting perspective on that question. When you get cut off from love, how do you learn to love yourself? And I agree with both of you. I can relate to that question because that was a question I asked a few years ago because I didn't feel love. I was a mother. I didn't know how to give love to my child. I was married at the time. I just didn't know. And, Andrea is right. You have to own up to things sometimes. And I went on a journey, and spiritual world came into to wouldn't say rescue. I think played a big part when I started the journey, sort of loving myself, because this journey, we often believe when we haven't received parental love or when we were ditched, abandoned as children, which is where most of the issues come from, we won't be able to build that love for ourselves again later in life. And that's not true. We can definitely have a childhood that we didn't have as an adult. We can recreate that. It's just a process of letting go of some of the traumas physically and psychologically, and then get connected with those three things that Mitra said earlier. I think I really love your perspective on this one. Spiritual world has massive, significant healing powers. When you don't need anybody else, you need professionals to help you out. Whatever the professional approach that you work with, you need people to help you out. But loving yourself is something that you can begin to do yourself, even if you're completely disconnected and you feel nothing and numb. That can be done.
Yeah. So a couple of other comments we've got coming through. You can love yourself. There's just a block somewhere. Often, yes, there is, and comes back from childhood. And once you find that you can release the block, you can love yourself. You are beautiful. Love is within you. Yes, it is. I would be interested to know the best way to end it with someone when there's apparently love on both sides. Truthfully, I don't know for myself. I don't know if there is a best way. Some ways are better than others. Whether you guys have got any different perspectives on that, and if there's, or it says about if it's love on both sides, for me that suggests there's a disconnect between what love means from one side to the other side.
So I'll just, the question can be asked in a different set of mind at the moment. But all I want to add at the moment is love sets you free. Love should set you free.
Yeah.
It should not create the bondage. Meditation sets you free. As far as letting go or ending, once acceptance comes in, once you are full of love, once you've set it free, end happens or doesn't happen, something comes or something goes, that's the freedom that you need to create. You clinging, one day you'll have to let go of this life. Forget about where you are. If you are in a stagnant, clingy, dangerous relationship, it is better to let go, because one day you cannot cling to anything. I mean, this is a very elaborative subject, but just to add, if you have truly loved, you will set it free.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Beautiful, Mitra. Okay, so what else we got going on in here? And do you love yourself? Can you feel emotions? And who wants to go first with that one? I'll come around to that myself in a minute. Andrea?
Sure. Well, if you're not in the space of love or accepting of that, you actually become numb. I work with a lot of women who are over the age of 40 and they're numb. They can't feel anything. And as we start to, like Nisanka says, peel off those layers and they let the hurt out and they deal with those emotions, then you can feel again. If you can feel things, then I think that you're well on your way to love. But if you've numbed everything in your body and you can't feel anything and life is just stagnant, there's some work that needs to be done.
Nisanka, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah. So this is about feeling love, isn't it? Repeat the question so I'll connect with it again.
And do you love yourself, followed by can you feel emotions?
Okay, so it's very much of a personal question, the way I think it's been put together. I have been through a journey, so I'll tell you, I have been through a journey where I was pretty disconnected, and up until, late 30s when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, I was pretty disconnected with myself or love. What I understood or interpreted as love was serving, being there, and sex to a certain degree as well. The sex for me at the time was very much a physical act, and there were moments I felt it, of course. But as I was going through the healing journey and started feeling, like Andrea said, feeling everything. You cannot feel love unless you feel the anger. You cannot feel love unless you feel the sadness. You cannot feel love unless you feel that disappointment, the abandonment, whatever that feeling is pushed down, suppressed. Unless you release the Pandora's box and pick them up one by one and feel them, you cannot begin to feel love. Because that's such a best way to say it. So when I started releasing my anger, release the kraken, release the anger, and the anger was released, the sadness came, everything else started. I started feeling them all, and lots of tears later. There would have been a tsunami if I lived next to a sea or something. Lots of years later, a few years later, nothing, started feeling that connection and started feeling things. Yeah, of course, that warm, fuzzy feeling is a possibility when you started acknowledging the anger, the rage, the shivering, the whole thing. So we cannot run away from negative feelings and emotions. We have to accept them, sit with them, and allow them to be to feel, and then love is kind of following them, right?
Yeah, very much so. So for me, my answer to that question is it has been a hell of a journey. Do I love myself? That for me is still a work in progress. I love most of myself. I do have some shadows that I am still working on, and it is a process. Like I think Nisanka mentioned, it's like peeling an onion one layer at a time. You take a layer off, you think, oh, I've got my shit sorted now. And then life comes along and boink, it gives you something unexpected to deal with. And there's another layer of healing that I need to work on. Can I feel emotions? I am just starting to. In some ways, my emotional self has been locked, frozen for many, many years. And it's only really the last 2 or 3 years that I've been working on that side of myself, because I'd suppress them. I would learn to change my state. So I could feel at least reasonable at any time, I could still choose to love people in what I did and the approaches I took to things. But when it came to actually feeling it, that's been one hell of a journey. And yeah, there's been lots of suppressed anger, frustrations, all those sort of things. For years, I would notice sensations in my body and be like, what the hell is that? Go away. I don't know how to deal with you. Just let me get on with my life. And it's been one hell of a roller coaster ride. So I, like many people, am a work in progress, and I probably will be until the day I stop breathing.
I just want to, that's an amazing point there. I just want to quickly add that anybody who's listening, I really request that the process is simple. Accept where you are and bring a bit of kindness towards yourself. Otherwise, just let the flower open a little bit, and the transformation will start. So just a bit of kind towards yourself, and it's possible.
What else we got just to just kind of try and wrap things up a little bit? One comment says, love hurts.
If you allow it.
If you allow it, yes.
It
And sometimes I think it's the meanings that we attach to love, to various different things. Sometimes it's the unmet expectations, broken promises, and if things don't go well, we say love that hurts, but then love also heals. How many parents say to their children when they fall over and have a bump, would you like mummy or daddy to kiss that better for you? Love heals, but we a lot of the time seem to forget that when we're adults.
Yeah.
Love heals. It's all the not so pleasant stuff that gets tied in with love that hurts.
It's also got to do with the amount of expectations we've put on ourselves or the person we are with. It's phenomenal suffocation and pressure that we put. It will hurt. So let it go.
Yes. Hopefully no one's going to start singing Frozen songs.
I just thought the same thing.
I was doing that in my head. I was like, let it. Oh my God.
Sometimes people say it's easier said than done. I promise you, it is not that difficult.
And it's worth it.
And it's
in
worth
the end.
it. Yes.
Oh my God, it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. Yeah. That process grows you in a way that you never thought was possible.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And sometimes that process, for it to really take hold and be embodied fully, can take a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure can.
That was certainly what triggered me on it with the divorce, but not so much the divorce. For me, it was the first relationship afterwards. That was the one that really, at the time I said it broke me, but I think what it really did is broke me open so that I could, the real me could start to come out. And that's where that journey, the roller coaster ride and everything else starts. Where it ends,
Absolutely.
who knows?
And
It's
looking
up,
at how
it's down.
people, the way people reflect, our own being, that the person that you claim to be in love with, but you're always seeing all of these not so healthy traits within that. Like, is that true love? For me, a love is a reflection, but it can be done in a gentle way. It doesn't have to be that always picking out everything that's wrong with each other kind of situations, scenarios,
Yeah.
And when our relationships reflect who we are.
Yeah.
Can
I add one?
Yeah. Go for it.
Can I add one thing? Somebody said love hurts. Love hurts. Yes, completely agree. I think not loving hurts even more.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yes, I think when we have experienced things that are loss of love or emotions that we don't like, when we try and build barriers up to block those out, we also block love out.
Mm-hmm.
And just to go back to what Andrea said, yes, we can pick out the stuff we don't like in a partner. We can also pick out the stuff we do like.
Mm-hmm.
The old saying, where focus goes, energy flows.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this has been amazing. And yeah, I can't remember who said it, is about love being a mirror. A lot of, certainly in my experience, looking back many years, the traits I've found in partners that I've really loved have actually been in me as well. So when I dig down inside me, I find those things, and that builds up that self-worth, self-love, and the belief that I am lovable. And also I find that the traits that I'm not so keen on in partners all the way through from when I was 19 all the way through to where I'm at now have also been in me as well. Our intimate relationships reflect ourselves back, whether it's the stuff we like, whether it's the stuff we don't like, all of it is in there. And that's part of the self-discovery journey, is to discover who we really are, discover the wounds, heal them, and it's an ongoing process. So just in closing, I'd like to see if anyone else has got anything they'd like to add here. Nisanka?
Well, you can say something, Mitra.
No, you go first. You go.
No, I think it's been a wonderful conversation, and thank you very much for your contribution, questions, and watching as well. I have definitely let my viewers down in my page because I couldn't get live in my page, but hey ho, these things happen. Lastly, I mean, I'm just going to repeat again: love is a possible thing, and we need to learn to love ourselves. At the same time, we need to learn to communicate the language of our love as well. And love does that. It brings a certain amount of vulnerability. Vulnerability is also courage. Go on to TED Talks. I'm sure everybody's watched Brené Brown vulnerability TED Talk, but if you haven't, do that. Yeah, love makes you feel vulnerable, but not loving hurts even more. So love.
And Mitra?
I just wanted to say thank you, and for listeners to understand that if they want us, we four are coming together with an open heart, and we would be continuing with different topics. But if anybody listening, they want us to pick up any specific topic, we would be more than happy. And I am really glad to be here and to contribute to any bit of happiness or joy that we could bring to people. Thank you.
And Andrea?
Oh, this has been super wonderful. I'm struggling with doing live things, so this is definitely a safe way to do it. So thank you for joining me on my beginning journey and being able to share in such a joyous space with real, honest people who are just here to help spread love. And I'm really excited for future engagements with all of you. This has been awesome.
Absolutely. Most definitely. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
And on that note, unconditional love, does it exist? Doesn't it exist? I think that question still remains unanswered as we expected. For me, a lot of it is, it's all down to belief, really.
It is a possibility.
It is possible. Not necessarily easy. but possible. And I think it all, when we love ourselves unconditionally, that is when we learn to give and receive unconditional love as well.
So, having listened back and watched the recording of that conversation now, how would I now answer that question of, does unconditional love really exist? And how I'd answer that today is, yes, unconditional love does exist. However, relationships, they are not unconditional. They need to be within your boundaries and in alignment with your values and many other things that could be seen by some as conditional. And I will be back to speak to you with another guest next week.
Thank you for listening to the Relationship Revolutions podcast with Alan Watts, the Love Engineer. If you found this episode useful, please like, subscribe and share.